Is it just me, or is it kind of strange that we only have one story from the first 30 years of Jesus' life? You sometimes hear these stories about child prodigies who were composing symphonies by 7, or solving unsolvable mathematical theorems at age 13. If you'd asked me, I would have predicted that Jesus would be like that. He'd start preaching around middle school, and by 18, he'd be famous for traveling around the world, putting religious leaders in their place. Starting a career at 30 is hardly precocious by anyone's standard, and Jesus' public ministry will only last about 3 years before he dies. That's a wild ratio of preparation to performance. Imagine staying in school until you're 30 for a 3-year career. What exactly should we make of all those years of near silence? On the one hand, it does seem from the one story we have of Jesus at 12 that he was a prodigy of sorts. He could hold his own in conversations with professionals 6 times his age, who'd studied the Bible their entire lives. The insights coming out of the mouth of this preteen boy clearly stunned people. But on the other hand, Jesus wasn't born with the Bible memorized, or with all wisdom somehow preloaded in his brain. He had to study and listen and ask people questions. He had to learn to listen to the little voice inside him that whispered when something wasn't right. The ancient philosophers like to say that virtues are habits. In other words, we become what we do over and over again. Modern science backs this up. We become experts at what we practice and repeat. Malcolm Gladwell famously estimated that it takes 10,000 hours of deliberate practice on average to gain real expertise. We can make synthetic diamonds, but there are no synthetic humans. Some things can't be rushed because they're literally made of time and repetition. Jesus took 30 years to get ready. That's a humbling thought. He talked to God and other people, practiced patience, grew in wisdom, built up the muscles of grace and truth. He was born the Son of God, but he still had to become the fullest version of who he was meant to be. He spent years Jesusing his way, day after day, into unshakable character and courage. He spent decades driving down roots that would be deep enough to anchor his work in high winds, and to keep pulling up nourishment even in times of drought. And Jesus was just as pleasing to God in his 30 years of becoming as in his 3 years of public action. I don't think most of us are taught this. All the voices and rewards in the modern world tend to incentivize us in the opposite direction. We try to go straight into production mode and stay there our entire lives. We try to maximize our annual output. We find it hard to justify any output of time whose results can't be easily measured. We prioritize growing up instead of growing down. The risks of constructing life this way often aren't clear until the whole thing crashes. Few people will tell you this, but the most important work you'll ever do is tend the unseen parts of your life. Who you become, the depth of roots you put down, what you put underground will be the most defining thing about you. No one else will see these roots, but they'll always see the results from what grows above. You can't fake this. You can't fake character or wisdom. The roots will always tell. Anyone who really hopes to make a difference in the world should attend at least as much to what's building underground as to what's showing publicly. You aren't yet what you will be. It doesn't matter how old you currently are. If Jesus is right, you're a forever person. And if you're going to be forever, this is no time for shortcuts. It's a time for long-term investments. So ask yourself, what's the state of your root system? Where do you need to be? Who do you need to talk to? What investment do you need to make to keep on deepening your becoming? The limits of what any of us can give to the world will always be determined not by what shows above ground, but by the truth of what's hidden underneath it. Let's read Luke 2, verses 39 to 52. When Jesus' parents had fulfilled all the requirements of the law of the Lord, they returned home to Nazareth in Galilee. There the child grew up healthy and strong. He was filled with wisdom, and God's favor was on him. Every year, Jesus' parents went to Jerusalem for the Passover festival. When Jesus was 12 years old, they attended the festival as usual. After the celebration was over, they started home to Nazareth, but Jesus stayed behind in Jerusalem. His parents didn't miss him at first, because they assumed he was among the other travelers. But when he didn't show up that evening, they started looking for him among their friends and relatives. When they couldn't find him, they went back to Jerusalem to search for him there. 3 days later, they discovered him in the temple, sitting among the religious teachers, listening to them and asking questions. All who heard him were amazed at his understanding and his answers. His parents didn't know what to think. "Son," his mother said to him, "why have you done this to us? Your father and I have been frantic, searching for you everywhere." "But why did you need to search?" he asked. "Didn't you know I must be in my father's house?" But they didn't understand what he meant. Then he returned to Nazareth with them and was obedient to them, and his mother stored all these things in her heart. Jesus grew in wisdom and in stature and in favor with God and all the people. If you're just joining us, my name is Megan Larissa Good. I've been studying the Bible for decades now and working as a pastor, professor, and author. But most of all, I love Jesus and want to see more of him in my life and in the world. If you want to join the conversation, look for the Luke 2 post at patreon.com/JesusCollectiveCommunity. Thanks for spending a few minutes in Luke with me, and I'll see you next time.